Okay, all right. Very good.
Calling to order the council meeting of Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. Please call the roll.
Mr. Knoll?
Here.
Ms. Zafra? Here. Ms. Wellman? Here. Mr. Daga?
Here.
Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr. Gentile?
Here.
Dr. Long?
Thank you. And since he's standing, I invite the law director to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next time we'll ask Steve to use some picture song.
99 bottles of beer.
First agenda item this evening. Good evening, everybody who's joining us tonight. First agenda item is the approval of the council minutes of July 20th, and July 27th. Would you have a motion, please, regarding July 20th? So moved. Second. Any discussion? Not hearing any, roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Zafra? Yes. Ms. Wellman? Yes. Mr. Daga?
Abstain.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Long? Yes.
Thank you. And can we now have a motion regarding approval of the minutes of July 27th?
Can I make a motion to amend or is that it?
Well, put the motion on, then we can talk about the amendment. Okay? So moved. Second. Okay, any discussion? Dr. Wong? Let's just discuss what it is that you're.
Yeah, on page 2 of the audience comments, it says Vera Bartkovich said that Mr. Knapp has never had a positive comment. I just have an issue with this, just because, one, I just don't believe that council meetings are a place where you attack your personally. And while it did happen, Mr. Knapp did say just a minute before that a positive comment about that the city was doing a good job communicating social events, and he was hoping that maybe it was to an extent to other issues, so I believe it should be reviewed.
Well, we've been discussing, my personal feeling is the minutes reflect what was said. I understand that lots of people say lots of things that other people don't agree with in the course of the meeting, but it was, I think we all recall being said, so I think it's appropriate for it to reflect. Anyone else disagree with that? You do it, otherwise. You want to make it a motion? We'll vote on your motion to amend.
Sure.
But you have to say specifically what you want to change.
Motion to remove that Pam said Mr. Knapp had never had a positive comment.
Is there a second for the motion? Not hearing a second, the motion dies. That brings us back to any further discussion regarding the minutes. Not hearing any roll call.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Zafra?
Yes.
Ms. Wellman? Yes. Mr. Daga?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Long?
Next, we have a very nice event. I want to welcome our representative from Rita this evening. The city, as you'll learn, the city of Pepper Pike is one of the founding members of the organization known as the Regional Income Tax Agency. So Gentile, that's something that you're and we are being honored tonight by the president. I apologize, I don't.
That's okay. It's Brian Hunter. Mayor, would you mind if I stand?
No, I welcome you to come forward.
Oh, great, thank you so much.
And it's Kemper, right?
Right.
Brian.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, I welcome you to our meeting, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Bain and distinguished members of council. My name is Brian Thunberg. I'm a Northeast Ohio government liaison with the Regional Income Tax Agency. I've been with the agency for just shortly over 24 years. So it's something that, an agency that I truly believe in. And again, we want to thank Mr. Gentili for his services between 1988 and 1991. As I was going through everybody's bios, that was obviously something that caught me of a previous executive director. And some of you may or may not know that we just appointed a new executive director. Our chief legal counsel, Amy Origi, is now our new executive director, taking over for Don Smith, who was our executive director for 10 years. I understand that Mayor Bain, you had a conversation with Amy at the mayors and managers meeting. So again, it's a great honor for me to be here at the city of Pepper Pike tonight. So just a little bit about Rita, if you don't know anything about us. Number one, we were founded back in 1971 with 39 founding members. Pepper Pike being one of those founding member municipalities. And over the course of the last 50 years, we've grown to over 380 municipalities. We collect $1.9 billion in income tax for the state of Ohio, and we are still continuing to grow. And tonight, what I wanted to do is just take the opportunity I won't read the entire proclamation, but again, what we wanted to do is go out and talk to our founding members and show our appreciation for what you've done in our partnership over the last 50 years. So again, what I'd like to do is, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, which is the governing body of the Regional Income Tax Agency, we want to recognize and wish the city of Pepper Pike for its participation in the founding of and the continued success of RETA. And also, I'd like to take this proclamation, if I may approach, I'd like to present this proclamation to Mayor Bain and the rest of the administration for the city of Pepper Pike as a founding member of the Regional Council of Governments and the Regional Income Tax Agency. So, Mayor.
Thank you. Let me step around. And pull out a picture. Someone pull out a picture. I knew you'd be. Joe, step on. I'm going to pick up the notes for this.
Here we go.
One more tighter.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And if you wouldn't mind, I do have a moment or two of your time, just to kind of give you a very quick overview. I know you have a packed agenda tonight, but I did provide.
Kind of bit.
I'm sorry?
You're kind of bit tonight.
Kind of bit tonight? Okay, well, I can be here as long as you need. I did provide Director Brzezinski with a memorandum that we put together for our member municipalities. And basically, we can circulate that to the rest of council if need be. I'm not going to go over it in depth, but what I wanted to say is that Pepper Pike, essentially, they are involved in every service that we provide. So again, everything from registration through litigation, Pepper Pike is involved with. And a couple of points that I'd like to bring up, I heard you talk about collections a little bit earlier this evening in the Finance Committee meeting. I can tell you that right now, currently, 50% of all of your revenue is coming in through electronic filing, which is a huge number. So your residents, whether they're professionals or whether they're doing their own taxes, they're using our e-file services, which is absolutely amazing. As we talked a little bit about, your revenue is up about 14% from last year at this time. So we see that continued increase. And, you know, we have a philosophy of why that increase has happened over the course of last year and where we're going at for this year as well. Again, we have been able to put information together and some statistical information about how many lawsuits that we have, how many subpoenas that we generate, and so on and so forth. And the city of Pepper Pike is sitting in a great position right now as far as income taxes collection. And we, again, as you may or may not be aware, we do represent the city of Pepper Pike and all of our surrounding members throughout the state, down at the State House in Columbus, and also in Washington DC as well. So you're very well represented throughout the state. I am your primary point of contact. So again, if the administration or Joe needs anything, then he would call me. And again, this is something that we put together. We thought it was important that I come out here and share our little story with you guys because you're a very an intricate part of what RITA stands for, and we really appreciate the partnership over the last 50 years. So I will go ahead and open it up to questions for council. Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions. Do you think that the 14% that we've experienced to date will hold through the end of the year? Or do you have a feeling about that one way or the other?
Based on what I've seen so far and the analysis of the cities in Northeast Ohio, I believe that that is going to hold true. It may fluctuate 1% or 2% up or down, but I still believe that that's going to hold true for the remainder of the year.
And do you have an
The
explanation?
other question is, you said that 50% of our tax revenues, or 60% of the 50% of the filings are coming in electronically.
Yes.
How does that compare with other cities?
It's actually relatively pretty close as far as percentages are concerned. More and more municipalities and more taxpayers are becoming more technologically advanced. So therefore, we're trying to provide them every opportunity to file electronically so they don't have to. And, you know, whether they're doing it at home or whether they're doing it on the website, and also if they're going to a preparer as well. RITA partners with a half a dozen software companies. So when you go into a preparer, your local preparer, and they're using the software company that we partner with, at that time, your federal, state, and your local return could be electronically filed, and the taxpayer doesn't have to worry about it. Drake Software is a very prominent software company that tax preparers use, so we get a lot of our filings through Drake Software.
Do you have, is income tax revenue up in a number of cities? And do you have a explanatory reason why that's the case, or is Pepper Pike unique in that regard?
Not necessarily unique. There are municipalities that, and again, we all talked about and heard about the work from home that we're all working through still at this point in time in 2022. And that is definitely a contributing factor for the city of Pepper Pike and also some of the surrounding communities, because again, you have people that may have worked at the city, in the city of Cleveland, that now maybe work out of their home, maybe 2 or 3 days a week now. So those withholdings are going to be changing, they're shifting revenues. And that's something that we anticipated when the pandemic first started. However, it's not as radical as what we had anticipated it to be. We were thinking that there would be much more of a swing, and there's not. And there's our belief that there's a reason for that too, because it's going to be the independent taxpayer that's going to make that determination. Is this money worth it for me to go get the refund, to go through the process? Maybe it doesn't make sense for a person who only is going to get 0.25% back. Maybe that doesn't mean too much. But for a person who worked in Cleveland and they may live in a township, well, you know, now they're going to get a whole 2.5% back, or, you know, those other communities. So that's where we see the biggest shifts in revenue.
And is that the biggest explanation that you would have for the increase? Is it the work from home trend, or is there other factors?
There are other factors with it. I can tell you that manufacturing industries are doing very well this year from a corporate standpoint. So the net profit taxes are up substantially in smaller communities, and we do see that. Again, as Pepper Pike's more of a residential community, you're seeing those dollars that are coming in for your residents.
But overall, the revenues that Columbus has received in the last year has been sharply up. The state is awash right now.
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions?
No, but I do want to, if no one else does anyone? I'll simply thank you again. It's really an honor to partner with RITA. We've been proud to be, as you've been our advocate, to be your advocate in Columbus, individually in Pepper Pike and in cooperation with the other communities in the region. I know there have been challenges through certain state legislation as to the collection of revenue, and we're very satisfied with the situation as it exists, to have our money stay relatively local with Rita. And we think that we've received excellent services from you as an organization, and we look forward to another 50 years of good efforts together. And thank you very much for everything you do and for this lovely proclamation this evening and for coming out and being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, administration. I do appreciate your time, your questions, and again, it's an honor for me to be here, working with our founding members and again, representing Northeast Ohio for the Regional Income Tax Agency. So again, thank you guys so much. Have a great evening, and if there's any questions, you can direct those to Joe. I'm more than happy to answer.
Tony
Yes,
has
just-
one more.
I just want to toot my own horn here a little bit. Back when I was the executive director, we got the first 2 cities in the Columbus area.
Mhm.
And being as brilliant as I am, I decided that we needed to change the logo from a cityscape to one that included the outline of the state of Ohio, which we still use today. So.
Yes, sir, and we actually have, we did like a time capsule, and we went all the way back to 1971, and we have every logo that was ever designed with Rita. And as you may know, that we just recently redesigned it again.
Okay.
So again, it's wonderful, and I can't be more proud of the agency that I work for and the job that we do for our surrounding communities and being a participant in the Regional Council of Governments and also in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
We'll find an appropriate spot for your proclamation. Thank you very much. We will move on with our agenda now. If anyone is interested in graphics by Tony, it's a great little business.
Actually, Maura McCarthy was responsible for that. It was somebody that I.
You have the insight to retain to do graphics.
I think Maura is working now, so we might be able to get, I'd like to change the template type logo.
Then Cookie Morgenstern would come back to Cleveland to try to change that. All right, our next agenda item is a resolution 2022-18 dealing with certification of delinquent charges for nuisance abatement. Mr. Brzezinski, want to take us through that, please?
Yeah, it's standard resolution we do annually. We've got to get this out of the county by the beginning of September for these grass cutting charges to go on next year's tax week.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Acuff?
Yes.
Ms. Welton?
Yes.
Mr. Daga?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Thank you. Next, we have, we're looking for a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Turnkey Technology for the installation and licensing of outdoor cameras in the amount not to exceed $82,000. I'll just generally frame this. I'm going to turn it over to the team that will investigate and manage this effort. This is to basically update and replace existing cameras that we have in and around the municipal campus. We've talked about this in the past, where we wanted to extend our camera observation into the park area, make that a safe, more secure area. This was supposed to happen during COVID, and the vendor frankly let us down so far as following up and getting the cameras installed. We went back out and solicited many more opportunities and let some other vendors that give us their thoughts. It seemed to be a conclusion among several of them that since most of the cameras, some of you have been around for the last 11 years, may recall that we replaced a number of cameras about 10 years ago, 9-10 years ago, and those are frankly just, they're done. And the technologies have changed, cameras have been hanging outside for 10 years, and it's time for them to be replaced. So this is it's more than, we're acquiring cameras that are more than simply for the park. We're gonna replace other cameras in and around the municipal campus at the same time. That's what it's about. We welcome Lieutenant Jim Colbert with us tonight. Jim made the inquiries, and he can tell us a little bit about what he did and answer any of your questions.
So I went out and I spoke to 6 different companies. First what I did was I reached out to the Jewish Federation, their security, because they have cameras in every single building throughout, the Cleveland area. So they gave me a couple of companies to speak to. I received a quote from one of them. Another one came out here, looked at our whole complex. They never got me a quote. I received a quote from a company called Verkada, which is based out of California. They offer a cloud-based server. All the other companies offered a on-site server that we would have to maintain. The Verkada one, to me, seemed the easiest and most advanced out of all of the companies that I spoke to. So they use turnkey technologies to install their cameras. Between the mayor, I, and Joe, we kind of looked at everything that was available, and that's why I believe was the best option for us.
Where are they monitored?
So they're monitored in California.
Oh,
We use their servers.
okay.
To maybe what your question is. The cameras are not, they're relatable to our dispatch center.
Okay,
But we don't anticipate that dispatch will always have our cameras up on screen.
Yeah.
Looking at them.
but our dispatch can access.
Our dispatch will be able to access into, so when an event occurred that required monitoring, they can bring it up on their screens and monitor.
And then, but day-to-day monitoring, is there a human
No,
being?
no, we're not going to be sort of staring at every child who goes to play with.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
That's not going to happen.
So it is recorded though, so
It's
it's
recorded,
always
and
on.
so if there is an incident of any type, we can always observe.
Yeah.
And through their cloud-based technology, is the same sort of situation we faced with our chest cams. The amount of data download and storage is phenomenal with these video broadcasts. So this is a great, without our having to invest in a tremendous server capacity to do this. This is an outfit that handles that need, and it's available to us instantaneously. They demoed the program for Lieutenant and Joe. They did it again for me, Lieutenant and Joe, and it's a very impressive ability to draw up information from the campus. So we highly recommend that council go ahead with this.
I have a couple questions. Full disclosure, I was involved in a couple of iterations of this, not a few years ago. I'm assuming these are all digitized, and do we know how long they hold those digital files?
It's up to forever.
Forever?
Yeah.
Okay, and have we looked at, the quality of the video and?
So it's all in high definition. They're all 4K.
Okay. And my other question is this our normal bid process? I know, I don't know how we do that, just to make sure, because I know there are local vendors who do this, but.
And you saw, so we did seek out local vendors in a few instances.
Yeah.
Steve can talk about.
Whether we put it out for bid.
Well, the situation that you're doing is you were inviting design solutions for the cameras, essentially, which include both the video capacity and the computer downloading abilities and provision of services. to that end, this is a professional design service of sorts. And you do it a little differently when you're dealing with professional design services. You find qualified vendors and determine the price after you find a vendor who's qualified and meets the needs.
So we're going beyond backfilling our old equipment with new equipment and just adding a few cameras, we're actually resetting the whole.
They'll remove all the cameras. We have 34 cameras
Okay.
currently, and there's, I don't know how many actually work, there's probably, 20-ish, 25, but they'll outfit us with, I believe, 32, 33 cameras, all brand new. And they can be installed within, as the mayor said, like within 6 weeks, they'll be installed. Any other company that I spoke to, it's 6 months to a year to get anything out.
They have local installing?
So yeah, the turnkey is based out of Cincinnati. So their sales rep did come up from Cincinnati and he walked the whole campus, so they'll be out there for a week-ish, 2 weeks at most to install everything.
Are there provisions for maintenance and repair?
Yeah, so there's a 10-year warranty on all the cameras.
Oh, yeah.
10-year warranty on all the cameras, right? And I did speak to, there's like 70 plus municipalities between school districts, police departments, local governments that use these cameras. The one I actually spoke to was Orville PD. They have over 100 cameras. And I spoke to the one captain, he said, he had a camera go down on a Friday, he had a brand new camera on Monday. So they're very responsive, he felt they were outstanding.
And as far as the backup, I'm assuming, I assume that they have a secondary backup offsite somewhere else so that all the digital files.
Yes, or redundant backup, yes.
I want to clarify something, so I'm not mistaken in the way that I've described the monitoring of Mr. Levin. Any camera is immediately observable to any officer at any time that they need it. So while there are not 30 people staring at 30 different television visions at one time, no one should feel insecure. These cameras are not monitoring is a tough.
Yeah, that was my question.
It's
Is
a
there someone
tough
staring
work.
at a screen 24/7 somewhere?
No,
That was my question.
But so far as our ability to perceive any sort of alert of the necessity to be observing a scene that's under vision of these cameras, instantaneously, police officer can be
Pull that
observing that.
Question for Joe. Go ahead. You said that they're monitored in California? The cameras
That's
are-
where the company is based out
Oh.
of. We monitor, so it's basically like logging, you pull up a web browser, you log into Facebook or Gmail or anything like that. Any officer, we have a limited number of users, so we could share with, with the mayor or, Mr. Advent, and they can log in and see what the cameras are.
So nobody's looking at these?
Correct, yeah, it's not like an alarm
And
monitor.
is there- are they so sophisticated that they can detect an event that needs to be seen and notify you?
Yeah, so you can set it up in any number of ways. You can detect person, motion, vehicle. So like, for example, if we have, back behind the service department, it's closed off for the weekend, we could set up that area where if there's a person or a vehicle that pulls back there, an alarm will come up, and whether dispatch or the officers will be notified.
And the other question I had was, is there an annual maintenance or?
This includes 5 years.
Okay, and then what is it after that?
Well, right now it's about 4,500 a year.
And this cost is budgeted?
Yes and no. We had a carryover PO from last year for a vendor that didn't work out
For these cameras?
for really the park. And that was about $35,000. So I have that excess money And given the fact that, we've changed around in our capital fund, the fact that we budgeted to do, Shaker Boulevard paving for this year, that's not gonna occur. I have the appropriation to be able to handle the rest.
So this is really a new project.
It's a broader
It's-
project than we anticipated.
Yeah,
The 35 for the park is grown to 80 whatever, because now we're doing the rest of the campus. So yes, Tony, you're right, it's a broader project than we anticipated.
Okay.
You're right.
by
So
replacing the
we're
other.
approving the project and the money.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah. I think it's fair to say.
The question I have, Joe, how do we come to conclusion that this was the right pricing? Or, I mean, how many bids did we receive? How did we evaluate costs?
We actually received 3 bids, and the first one was kind of like a fly-by-night. He didn't give any details. Yeah, it'll be between this price and this price. The one Federation company came in at 105, 106,000. That did include any maintenance agreements. This project came in, plus once we seen everything we could do compared to the other companies, it became a no-brainer to us.
So, was this a nationwide search for this vendor, or was it
No.
local?
No, it started off with being local, and the old Seavers got bought out by Guardian, so we threw them in the mix, and they were not responsive, they didn't come in. So we looked, well, we did 6, and we got the one kind of fly-by-night number and 2 others,
Over what period of time?
months. You know, because they gotta come out, they gotta walk the campus, and then they see areas, you know, like the old technology, we have some areas where we actually have 4 cameras in one location, pointing 4 different ways. They said they could put in one camera that's in one bubble that has 4 lenses and shoot it 4 ways. So,
Do we also have the technology or the means to do live streaming for council meetings or things like that? Like we need to do that in the future?
we thought about that as like the next phase, we wanna get this up and running, get these cameras in. And then there's a couple of other things that we're looking at. One of them is potentially in here. You know, I'm sure there's technology to be able to bounce it to, YouTube if possible, but we haven't approached them on that yet. We wanna get this big chunk in first.
I just want to say it makes sense to have it cloud-based, because if you try to have a local server, you have to have a backup server, and that just multiplies the complexity and the investment. It's all sorts of things.
You said Orville has these cameras?
Yes.
And I suppose you spoke with them, and was there?
Yeah, so, I spoke with the captain from the police department, he said they have well over 100 cameras. And then the company actually was able to show us a lot like the live feeds of all their cameras. They showed us all the things you can do with them, you know, they're at 4K, I mean, they showed us everything.
And the captain was happy with
Yeah,
what he was
yeah,
getting from them?
he said they've had them for over a year and a half, and, you know, he said no complaints, as I said, he had a camera go down, and he had a new one.
And they can read license plates and zoom in and
Okay.
it's working.
And we feel the number of cameras with this project is appropriate for what we have.
Yeah, that's it. They walked the campus with me, and they felt like, that was appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, we entertain a motion for this expenditure. $82,000, not to exceed $82,000.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Not hearing any, roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Zethra?
Yes.
Ms. Welton?
Yes.
Mr. Daga?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Thank you, Lieutenant, for your joining us tonight and your presentation. Appreciate it. Next, we will move on to committees and department heads. So we had a meeting of the Finance Committee prior to this council. Mr. Lemay, want to report?
Yes, we had a finance committee meeting before the council meeting. I had a presentation with Brian Carter of Fifth Third Bank. Brian is one of those who helps us manage our rainy day fund. These are funds that were set aside for future projects, and he invests those in various bonds, subject to state regulation. I'm going to have Brian back about twice a year to learn what he's doing, learn what the market's doing, and learn how he's optimizing the return for the city's rainy day fund cap. So it was very good to have him, Joe. Thanks for inviting him. That was very helpful. I got very comfortable with him, hearing him talk and how he works. So that was good. And then we reviewed the financials. We're in good shape on the financials. The income tax revenue, as the Peter representative mentioned, is up over last year. And that's a very solid trend that's continuing. Everything else is very close or on budget. So we're very comfortable with our financial position right now.
Thank you. Not only have we had a plan, we had Medina Creative come in, which we last reported. Did we ever report about
I'm trying
Medina?
to remember for your.
It was August 1st, so. it was a
Oh,
long
okay, so maybe we
time
didn't.
ago.
So we had, I don't think we had, Medina Creative Housing come in to approve their preliminary site plan. We had a very robust discussion. It was all basically as, in accordance with conversations that we previously had, community members expressed concerns, about location, including, the Ursuline College, but in general, it was basically, well, very preliminary, and I think there'll have to be a lot more fleshed out in it. It was all compliant, so it was approved, and, I imagine there'll be a lot more conversations, especially with the ARB. Trying to think what else we covered.
You had the.
We had the fence, that was, so there was a community member who was requesting a variance. They wanted to have a fence which was in the riparian setback. It's a very complicated backstory having to do with issues between neighbors and cutting in the riparian setback, so not so straightforward. The person had obvious reasons why they were trying to put this fence there. However, we basically tabled the matter, I believe, or about until the next meeting, to see if there would be a better way, because obviously putting a fence in the riparian setback creates another problem. So you don't wanna try and help them solve a significant problem addressing encroachment, on the riparian setback by putting a fence in the riparian setback. So, we're hoping that perhaps over time a resolution could be reached and, giving them more time. We also had another community member come with a request, for a variance. They have a inherited boat that they wanted a variance, to keep in their property for an extended period of time. We also tabled that. There were some conversations that, in the interim, perhaps they could find a solution, for the next meeting to address the boat in their property.
They had some state issues where it suddenly appeared coming to them out of the state.
Sorry.
And they expressed optimism that maybe they could get their state issues resolved and just move it on. So we tabled it, and hopefully before we meet again, we will have resolved their issues with the estate, and this boat will no longer appear in their property. So we'll
And
see how that
the
goes.
only other item was the Kurt Garage.
Oh, that's
accessory
correct. I'm
building.
sorry, there were four.
Yeah.
So
One.
there was an accessory garage building on, a larger piece of land where there was already, a rather large shed on the property and another, outside structure, I think a pavilion, they have been given variances. So it exceeded the number of outbuildings you could have. In addition, it also exceeded the total square footage for garage space, because this was a detached garage in addition to the already attached garage. Well-designed, very good presentation, and the lot is rather large. I think it's 7.5 acres. And so the variance was granted with, the limitation that if the property was subdivided, at some time in the future, that structure could not remain. And this was also going to be, I believe, included and entered in the title of the office of the auditor.
Just stating the fact, stating the date of the planning commission meeting where the variance was granted.
So therefore, if a future property owner tries to purchase either the house or part of the property, they would be on notice of this limitation.
Yeah, what it really called to mind, it was appropriate the way we handled it for that very, very large parcel. What it brought to mind was the conversation that we've had with council a year or two ago about whether we need to address the way we judge the size of garages for different size properties and homes. That maybe there's a different way of approaching it than I recall George had suggested something, so that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution in our ordinance. And the planning commission isn't in a position where they're having to theorize why a variance for a 7.5 acre lot for what, in that context, a rather modest thing that they're doing, makes sense. So it's something that I'm going to talk to George about, maybe revisiting this idea and bringing it back to council.
There's a precedential risk there,
Right, right,
It starts to look like a garage and not a house.
right, and not in this instance, but it's a 7.5. Most people don't have 7.5 acre lots.
Yes.
And that was the challenge, and George does have some thoughts on some possible ways to address it based on the size, square footage of the house, and the square footage of the parcel on which, whatever structure, it doesn't have to be a garage. But generally, they would be a garage, would be placed. So he has some thoughts on it, something that he does it, because it is something that has come up. Not on this, not exactly in this way, this was a little different, but it has come up in a few parts.
Yes, and there was a good fact pattern for,
Bad tax, bad law.
Yeah.
so, anyway, thank you. Appreciate it. For reaching back and.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Department heads, anything, how's our police station going?
We're about 2 weeks away from completion of the police station project, and we had our hiring list certified today by the Civil Service Commission, so hopefully next month we'll have our first new officer starting, and then we'll be hiring a second one after that.
Thank you. Anything in the finance chair that you have?
Unfortunately, we had canceled Ice Cream Social last Sunday due to weather. The mayor and I had a conversation at 9:15. It was really coming down and didn't make any sense to the way the weather was looking. It just did not, it was not smart move to have
At
it.
that
So,
point, there was still predicted 80%
yeah, there was,
thunderstorms all
we had some hail and a lot of stuff that didn't actually happen, but better safe than sorry. So we're reloading again for this Sunday, same time, so. Come on out. See the neighbors.
We're proceeding with valuation of the shaker contract. Anything else we know?
Just our concrete work is starting on that Eaton collection, Eaton Court Lane, taking out concrete slab. So,
I think Jim touched on the major thing. We do have the return of the annual ice cream social this Sunday from 2 to 4 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, there will be the swing band concert also to in the pavilion. So they'll intersect. We'll have pony rides, the body. I don't think they do face painting right now, because they do arm painting.
Did you say pony rides? Sorry.
We do pony rides.
Oh, my kids are gonna be so excited.
You make sure your kids are here for the pony rides. I took my granddaughter on a pony ride last week. Wow. You'd think I took her to the movie. And it's a great time for everybody, every year. So I encourage everyone to come on out. It's a nice casual event to see the neighbors and catch up. And the weather right now is predicted to be very nice. So the fingers crossed stay that way. Council, anything more from you?
I have one thing I'd like to bring up. We used to have a communications committee that was interested in making suggestions about website and other means of communication. Just wondering if there's any thoughts about getting that going.
Yeah, I thought with you and I had already talked about that and it was going.
But we haven't gotten as well.
Well, we can talk about it. Yeah, we were gonna head that up. So we'll talk.
Oh,
I thought you and I had already had the whole conversation. Anything else?
Don, can you remind me of the particulars of the next phase of the sewers? I think it's for some streets off of Shaker.
Yes,
How many homes are there?
it's about another 80 homes. It's, if you think of Shaker, there's a little bit of a subdivision to the north, a couple subdivisions, Concourse properties, Chatham, and then to the south, of course. It's,
And do we have money for that committed from?
yes, we got about 1.6. I think it's 167, something like that, over $1.5 million.
And that, there was a map that came out about 2 years ago maybe, that had 3 phases, and I think that was, that area was the second phase, but I think it was smaller.
It's about, well, on that map, it was about the 8.5%. And the remainder, the next piece is everything else potentially growth. Whether or not that all happens as one big phase or gets broken into.
I think the second phase had 100.
There are some old maps that got superseded by some new maps.
262 homes?
That would be the phase after the one.
Okay. All right. I guess that must have divided, it looks like, look at the color, I can still see the colors. That looks like it was part of the 262.
It could, the 80 may have come out of that.
Yeah. And then the rest, is that still phase 2, as we think about it right now, or the rest of it?
That chunk, that next piece requires a pretty big pump station, and that there's some issues with where to place that and the design of that. Even the preliminary design, we haven't really committed any serious dollars to the green. We generally have an idea in an area where it can go, but whether or not that is the next piece or some other area of town is.
So we can't say that all things being equal, but that is the next.
I wouldn't want to commit to that.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I said, are there any audience comments?
Oh, okay, yes, yeah. I did call the editor of the Sugar Valley Times after the article came out because there was not a reporter here. And I did feel that maybe a little bit of discretion could have been used when she transcribed the audio that she listened to. So I did, and in fact, I did say I had made a comment and that was not included. I guess it wasn't hot enough of an issue. But I'm wondering exactly where the walkability survey is now. Will that be ready to go fairly soon? And my recommendation was that it be sent to all residences with a metered return envelope in the hopes that we would have a much larger response to that issue. And is there any talk of possibly having an open meeting that residents would know about too? So we have some idea of just exactly what is involved with the sidewalk issues.
As far as the question thanks for the comment. The question regarding the committee has been meeting. In fact, I think we have a meeting coming up this week still, and we're trying to select a vendor for the creation of the survey, a third party. So that's where that is, okay? All those other things that you talked about are part of that conversation that we'll have with that vendor. Is the feasibility, is to the right direction to go with how to make this as effective as possible. Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jean Gascoigne, and my address is 30496 West Ladder Road. And first, I would like to go on record to express as a resident appreciation and thank Lieutenant Rod Felber of the fire department. He heads up, and his leadership for the CERT team is outstanding. And the CERT members, you might see us at the Ice Cream Social, Taste of Pepper Pie. Those are on the positive things. If there's any storm or issues or anything, we might be out there swimming. But anyhow, for Rob, he just is an excellent leader. I would like to, and I think that I got some of the update on this survey because it goes back, as far as I could tell, 18 months for this whole survey about the walkability, long range. I hope that there's going to be long range planning independent for the city. A long range plan, and I know at some point in some of the past minutes, people or maybe council members reference the Gatesville Committee and their survey, and I just think that it's important that Pepper Pike do an independent with the vendor and get some committee members, I hope, resident committee members on board to share this and get it going. So again, it's to me, it goes back to the communication. I think that Pepper Pike does an outstanding job promoting the social activities, the ice cream social this week, and Taste of Pepper Pike and the movies in the park. It's promoted and you can't miss it. On the other hand, I think that going back, Scott, the website, I don't know what you're talking about, but I would like to have some input on communication and not just the social aspects of what's going on in Pepper Pike, but also the business of Pepper Pike. I think it's just as important. And my final point is my personal opinion. I was not here, but my personal opinion reading in the Chagrin Valley Times article, it was an article. It's not a letter to the editor. This
Was a report.
woman was quoted. The article was a business article about Pepper Pike and the walkability and everything else. Now, personally, this woman has this, I mean, it's not up to Chagrin Valley Times. I think that, I think it was just really bad that she had this quote. First of all, that Chagrin Valley Times quoted it, her, but also Mandy laughed. I mean, are you kidding me? What she said was totally wrong. Mandy even goes back with a path or something that you, before when Bruce Akers was mayor, I mean, he has been involved not just in keeping us going, but positive things, so, you know, I just think that was, you know, that's my opinion, okay?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp.
Manny Knapp, 2632 South Center Road. I've got a couple of items to go on over. I guess the first one is, we appreciate the comments from Dr. Long on there, about the minutes on there. The audience member, on there. I guess to that, I'd like to just make a couple of comments. I was getting ready to make a presentation about the sidewalks and the trails out here. And one of the things for people on the sidewalks and trails, thank you for participating, like I mentioned in the last meeting on there. And everyone really knows that Jim LeMay, a very significant thank you in regards to, there'll be no conversation right now going on in regards to sidewalks, other than Mr. LeMay insisted that the second survey get written, put the word sidewalks and walkability into the second survey. And if it wasn't for that happening, and now going into this third survey, which really was supposed to be the first one, we would not be having conversations on the sidewalk. For over 10 years, the city had been talking about sidewalks on there, and with that, nothing is in the city long-range plan for sidewalks, for the trail. It just fell out of the sky on February 17th with the proposal that came in from the mayor in regards to, and with that, thank Don Sheehy for finding all of these grant monies that are available to us. And he found this grant money, and with that, City came in and said, okay, why don't we apply this $500,000 grant money for the trail? With it, that was all that was talked about in that meeting, was that trail. Okay, there's nothing about sidewalks on there. Everything else had gotten forgotten. That's all we're talking about, sidewalks. There's no master plan. The city has done, the city has done an excellent job in regards to when this office took place. I'm not sure Mr. Mayor if you're paying any attention on here, but when this office took place with regards to in 2011, okay, Mayor Bain, and Citizen Bain, myself, several council members that are on council right now, and a lot of citizens that some of them are sitting here, we formed a political action committee to call for financial stability within the city. And with that, that's where we identified that what was currently happening was not adequate in regards to, the old administration was identifying that they wanted a tax increase. And with that, we all looked at the different things that were going on. New police station, firing range in the basement on here. We were talking about regionalization. We wanted to have regionalization, take the 911 emergency calls on here, and was there a better place in the region, within the region to have this done? We ended up saving, I think, close to $400,000 a year with that. So there's all these items that we did. I even drove Mayor Bain around for the first election to drop off flyers in mailboxes. In this most recent election for the mayor, okay, I actually got 3/4 of the signatures that he needed to get back on the ballot on here. So, this comment that's in the paper, that says, knowing this resident said, knowing Mr. Bain and what he's done for the city, we were in trouble at the end of the last administration, but Manny was never positive about that either. Wow. How wrong that statement is. And nothing else is coming up, and again, appreciate that long statement, your statement out there. So that's one. Number two, the item was let's see, has never heard a positive comment from Mr. Knapp, and that goes back to the previous administration. As I mentioned, I was going through and going to make a presentation on the sidewalks tonight. So I had this data with me, so while we're talking here, just want to make sure that this is in the record. There is, okay, Manny Knapp, April 21st, 2021. Manny Knapp Sound Center echoed all the sentiments from Mr. Girardi and wished him good luck. Manny Knapp and his wife walked the circle, and the plantings are well done. Okay, April, and I'm only gonna go through a couple.
And you know,
I'm gonna go
I think
through
we
a
can all
couple.
stipulate that you have said certain positive things over the years.
Okay,
And
and
I
it's
think we
not
can just
just,
say that, and maybe not.
and well, with that,
Recite.
there's a lot of items, you know, on here, and I'm only gonna go, again, I had this presentation for this other thing on here, but just gonna, so,
You're kind of burning your time if you have other things you want to do.
okay,
So
I'll just,
I would suggest
okay,
that you
very good, I appreciate
get to what you're doing.
I appreciate the comment. On April 28th, Manny Knapp echoed sentiments for the mayor and council and said it would be a pleasure to know Chief Mariota. Let's see. And this is May 26th. Manny Knapp said he was extremely pleased to hear the great discussion by the mayor to conduct a survey of the residents on the Pathway project. And it just goes on, you know, from here.
All right, we're gonna
Okay, so
wrap
now I'm gonna go
up.
on.
Manny, we are literally gonna wrap up. We're not gonna sit here and just listen to you recite everything that you've said over the last 15 years.
Well, you, unfortunately, you let that be in the minutes without any other notice to it.
I
So
didn't
that's
let
why I
anything.
think.
The lady
So
made a
let me go
comment,
with my
you
major
disagree,
point. My major
Dr.
point
Wong
is-
has disagreed. I think the record is replete with people who don't concur with that statement. I think we can move on.
Okay, so with that, August 1st, we had a planning and zoning meeting. And I've called Melanie Multman on this, and I identified to her what I thought was a very major oversight on the city. And again, it goes back to what I've been harping on with these other things. And yes, I talk about communication within the city. There's two people on the Say No to Rezone database that I know live next door to Ursuline College. And I called them up Sunday night, the night before the presentation was going to be made. And I asked them, do you know that this would be a presentation of planning and zoning for the first approval, you know, of this new plan? And they said, no, they were not aware that there was going to be any discussion. And I said, I'm just letting you know, and that was it. And with that, those two people did come to the meeting. They participated in the meeting. They had excellent comments in that meeting. And with that, George Snurgan, the city engineer, did an outstanding job of summarizing what the requirements of the city, and it was a great compromise that the city made with Ursuline College and the Bank of Creative Housing to get that project moved back. Mr. Snurgan had an excellent summary of that. They met all the criteria that was there. This one individual that lives directly next door made that statement that he was in support of this and that they made that, but he wouldn't have been there other than if other citizens had notified him. And I believe the people from the sidewalk committee, they're not coming here because they're seeing notifications.
I want to say something. The city gave actual notice to all of the neighbors. And if it's the gentleman I'm thinking you're referring to, he received notification of this meeting.
The only
So
thing I
I'm
can
sorry.
tell you is.
Well, you're saying something, you've complained that people say things at meetings that aren't accurate. And I'm telling you, this clerk of council made very careful point of notifying a broader network of people about that meeting than the law even requires.
Okay,
So make sure, let me finish, to make sure that they had notice. So do not make a valid point of people didn't get notices. I'm sorry if this gentleman didn't read his mail or wasn't aware. I'm glad that somehow he became aware. The meeting was improved by his comment, I hope. But no, let's not make this is a comment section. You've been going on for 10 minutes, Manny, and I'm about to wrap this thing up and say we're done with your comment and move on to the lady behind you who wants to make a comment. because it's not fair to the rest of the audience. This is just not appropriate. So I think with that, we're gonna move on. Thank you for your lengthy comments tonight. We're gonna move on to the lady behind.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amy Lipson, and this is my husband Andy Altman. We live
Hi.
at 4520 Monet Place, and we moved into our house a year and a half ago. And we have a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, and then I have a mom who's almost 84. The moment that we bought our lot in Sterling Lakes, we became very, very concerned because every time you pull out onto Greenridge, it's very hard to see to the right, to the left. And when Dr. Wong was campaigning, she was great. She came to every single house in Sterling Lakes. We spoke for a while. I reached out to her after she won about our concerns. My neighbors are concerned. I know that Sterling Lakes has been around for a long time. I had reached out to the chief of police, Dr. Wong, reached out to the city engineer and the chief of police, and we were told that there, to his knowledge, there have not been any accidents. They're monitoring, the police department is monitoring speed, which we are so appreciative of. But I have to tell you, every single day is a near miss. And what we see is Sterling Lakes has gotten bigger over the past 5 years, and what we see is cars coming out, and then they come out too far, and that car swinging around. You can hardly see the way that the road is with the trees. And then the people coming down Brainerd are honking. Well, I'm so glad there's been no catastrophic event. I don't think we should be waiting for some catastrophic event to occur. And I know that I would rather be delayed a minute or two if there's something that can be done. I wish I'm not a traffic engineer, I don't know the solution, but I just wanted to voice our concerns. The other thing I wanted to say is we want to say thank you very much to the city of Pepper Pike, because I know that we have like the only sidewalk into Pepper Pike. And I can't tell you how grateful we are for it. It's wonderful to be able to, connect to the stores from our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. So far as, how long have you lived in Sterling Lakes?
Year and a half.
Okay, so you're relatively
Yeah.
present. The intersection ingress egress at Brainerd and Sterling Lakes Drive, it's a longer conversation than I think we should engage in here at this session. Happy to have it with you. Mr. Shi is happy to have it with you. The short substance of it is there are what's called warrants that justify in the laws of the state of Ohio a traffic light being able to be installed, not installed. Long story short, it doesn't warrant under the law a traffic light. Okay? The city has done other things that I'll go into with to try to slow traffic. We've worked with the Sterling Lakes people. Sterling Lakes is, we've conducted traffic studies. Sterling Lakes HOA has. The conclusions have been the same, that the traffic volume does not warrant it. A traffic light, there does not seem to be any dramatic increase that's observable, that things have changed to a level where it was way off the mark. It wasn't close. We've tried to work with the HOA and prior to that, Dover Properties, who, before we turned it over to HOA, as to how to keep the plantings which were in the control of the Sterling Lakes property trimmed back so that it didn't obscure people looking to the right and to the left. Happy to go over all that stuff with you. The driving point, though, has to be, we should take comfort. There has never been an accident at that intersection. It's not, so you can't call it a dangerous intersection because you need a number of accidents to get to that category. There haven't been any accidents. So I respect your caution and your apprehension for it. I do. Because I was there last weekend. I tried to stop in at your Blackwater, and it was so crowded. It was, I didn't know where to put my car, so I just drove home. But I pulled back out onto the road, and I did not have any problem. But that's not to say that at other times of the day, people don't have to pause 15, 30 seconds for traffic to clear. I'm not trying to downgrade denigrate your feelings as to you don't feel secure always coming out. I urge you just take the pause, take the moment. The traffic there is actually less than at other intersections when you pull out onto a major roadway, be it onto Lander Road or onto South Woodland from other roads. So, happy to have a much longer conversation with you about it, but I didn't want you to walk out of here thinking, since you're new to our council chambers, no one's listening to what you're saying. Let me or Sheila know how to be in contact with you, and Don and I are happy to have a conversation with you. Okay? I think that's it for the evening, and with that, we're adjourned. See you all at the Pony Ride.